I just want to start by saying how much I appreciate the collective wisdom in this community. I mean, what a group of deeply thoughtful, deeply spiritual, deeply caring individuals and families. It's really very moving, the level of engagement that we all have with our spiritual knowing in our lives. I really appreciate that about this community a lot. So obviously, this is not a celebration for the life of Carol Cornelissen, who I did not know. I think I probably saw her when I attended a few Unity services way back before I got more involved, but I can't say I ever met her at all. But it is very important for us today, not only to acknowledge her transition, but to acknowledge our debt of gratitude to her and to our other co-founding mother, Colette Phillips, without whom this particular gathering of Unity souls wouldn't be here. I'm so grateful that we're doing this service today because there's so many of us here, and this community is such a place to receive nourishment to help us continue to move on through these very challenging times. Shira, your prayer today was so beautiful, from the individual to the collective, and how the whole world, which is all one, needs our loving support. So thank you to Carol Cornelissen and Colette Phillips for having the wisdom and energy to create this particular manifestation of the Unity Church. So we know that Carol has transitioned out of her body and is now in an expanded state of awareness, and we support her in that transition. As I said, I did not know her, but my understanding is that she is a quiet, thoughtful, deep thinker soul, and that she was very committed to the Unity principles. And I'm sure that she has something to do with why we recite them every single service. And we remind ourselves that these are the founding thoughts that guide our awareness in this spiritual practice. And again, next Sunday, Reverend Carlos will lead the celebration of her life, and Colette Phillips will participate. So please attend. Those of us who don't know her, we will learn more about her and have a chance to really celebrate her. And just acknowledging again that our own brother in this community, Jim Murphy, suffered a stroke a couple of weeks ago, and our support of him and his wife is super helpful for him. So I've been thinking about what we call death in Western culture. I know that the Tibetans more accurately call the state that occurs after death the bardo state. The bardo is an existence level, you might say, of consciousness in which there's no body attached to the consciousness. So the consciousness of the soul is expanded, and there is an awareness of where the life that was just lived fits into what the Tibetans and, of course, many spiritual traditions will describe as a series of lives in which the soul learns and grows. So the bardo state is that time in which the soul gets to reflect on what has just been experienced, and reconnects with soul family members and with guides who help the soul become ready to enliven themselves with their commitment to continue on in the learning process, in the manifestation in the body. It's here in the body that we actually integrate our growth. So living in the body is so valuable, because that's where we as souls can move our awareness forward towards the goal, which is full awareness of our unity with God. Let's see, what else do I want to say about that? So the Tibetans affirm that the first 49 days after a person transitions out of their body are a kind of delicate stage in which loving prayers are extremely helpful. So if we can continue to hold Carol in our prayers, I don't know the date of her transition, but maybe somebody who does might post that in the chat, for 49 days, that this helps move her consciousness more easily into transitioning into being aware that she's no longer attached to a body, which of course is, a challenging transition. Just think about any time you have to move from one living place to another, that's challenging. So when you move from living in the body to not being in the body, that's also loving support is helpful in that transition. So let's just affirm for a minute the exquisite perfection of Carol's life, and in fact, of all of our lives. Her particular devotion to God, which was sufficient for her to want to found a church, and her commitment to know the truth of who we really are. Let's just take a deep breath and appreciate her perfection and all of our perfection. So anytime there's a transition of someone we know out of their body, or someone has a serious illness, including ourselves, it certainly puts a spotlight on the passage of what we call time, and how important it is to use it wisely to grow in wisdom and peace, and in healing any place that's still a constriction or a resistance. So attuning to the passage of a loved one is a huge motivator to pay attention to each lesson that we have, and to knowing that we and God have set up every lesson as a benefit for ourselves to grow in exactly the way we particularly need to grow. This has been such a blessing for me to really understand that even the most, or especially the most difficult situations, are exactly what I need to grow in the way that I as a soul need to grow. So therefore I'm removing my resistance to what I'm experiencing, because the experience itself might be hard enough without then also saying, oh, I shouldn't be having this experience. Well, I am having this experience, so feel it, go through it, do it, experience it, and then the lesson comes from it. So what is this thing that we call time? Mystics of all traditions and no traditions, I would say mystics probably don't really come from any kind of religious tradition, though they might reside in the container of a religious tradition. I would say the definition of a mystic is someone who has direct awareness of knowledge without any religious teaching informing them of that direct knowledge. So mystics describe time as an experience that was created by the child of God, which in reality is a unified field of consciousness that only appears to have been separated into infinite fragmentations. So that was a creation by us, time. Time is, you might say, a container in which all of these apparent fragmentations can progress from that primordial state of unity with God, with no awareness that we are even existing, never mind that we're in unity with God, a progression from that state to the state of full awareness of who we are and that we are in unity with God. This expansion into full awareness of unity with God will be a new state of being that has never before been in existence in creation. During this time of great upheaval in the world and in collective consciousness, we are in the beginning stages of this new age. So all of our commitment to aligning our awareness with God, with love, is really profoundly important. the more we can remain in a state of peaceful awareness of God's loving guidance, the more quickly this new age of full awareness of unity with God can manifest. So I really want to emphasize that I've often got this intuitive teaching that each one of us is extremely important in this project of lifting up the collective awareness of humanity into the awareness of our spiritual unity with Source. So never doubt your importance. And I just want to say that in the collective consciousness, not only in this country, but in other places around the world, there's a kind of heightened contrast between this awareness of unity and our responsibility to each other, and a heightened insistence on our separation and lack of responsibility to each other. The global pandemic has certainly highlighted this growing edge of the collective consciousness. There's lots of awareness of the reality of our interbeing and our responsibility that I take care of myself, so I also take care of everyone. And that stirs up the egoic thought form of separation. And so, of course, it creates a strengthening of that egoic thought form as it resists this awareness of collective responsibility. An old habit dies hard. It wants to hang on and force itself into existence still. So for myself and for all of us, it's really important to just see this kind of flare up, you might say, of the thought of separation as a kind of effect of the increasing awareness of unity and loving connection. It's not a battle, I want to say, between the awareness of unity and loving connection and the thought of separation and individual rights at all cost. That thought of separation has always been in the thought process of each of us and all of humanity. It just seems to be stronger precisely because the awareness of unity is also growing. I've been slowly, you might say, savoring my way through the next book of Mari Perrin, who was the channel for the Course of Love. I want to give a shout out to Jimmy Murphy, who's been devoted to the Course of Love. And it's really, I mean, we all know that he's a bright spark, a loving soul. This book has been really transformative for him. This next book of Mari Perrin is called Mirari, The Way of the Marys, and it's her very intimate, personal conversation with Mother Mary. So it's every sentence is a jewel and feels deeply personal, but also, of course, available to all of us. And I've found it very thought-provoking and nurturing at the same time, which is the definition of the divine feminine. So here's, I'm going to read a quote from this book. As the Son of God, as in Jesus, who I also call by his Aramaic name, Yeshua, as the Son of God came to anchor the truth of who you are into consciousness, which is one in being with God. So the children of God now are called upon to anchor the fulfillment of the time of Jesus with the passing into the new age that we are calling the way of Mary. This is an anchoring of the infinite awareness of the consciousness of creation in time. We are knitting together linear time with time outside of time, birthing time's awareness of itself as a helpmate to human expansion through the awareness of spaciousness in ourselves and into spaciousness itself. So I just want to say that that is a statement of what I was saying a minute ago, of how important each one of us is as we each anchor our own awareness of our own inner spaciousness. And anybody who has studied Buddhism will also recognize the teachings of the Buddha in this, that we are spaciousness itself. So when we anchor our awareness of who we are, that our being exists outside of time, time is just this story that we drop into to learn, but our soul, our consciousness exists outside of time. So each of us is a perfect and necessary facet, you might say, of the jewel of the whole. Here is Mother Mary's description of the state of unity, which she calls time outside of time, which isn't linear, but is actually simultaneous. So those of us, all of us who think we're stuck in linear time, sort of hard to imagine that actually time is a unified field, but it is, that is the truth. So time outside of time holds the universe in its loving embrace, where all of the heavens are cooperating, intermingling in relationship. Only on your humanized strip of time does time enter the concreteness of form and meet resistance. You make yourself concrete. You make yourselves formidable objects until you become spacious. In spaciousness, there is no resistance, no concreteness. There is no measuring of time, plotting with and against time, or railing against time as a container in which we are born and live and suffer and die, as if we're the victims of time. Now is the perfect time to call out to time in love and ask for time's assistance. Ask and ask in love for time's assistance. Welcome time to work with you and not against you. Appreciate the time you have here and the exquisite potential of this time. See time's beauty as you see beauty in the designs of nature. All, the great all, is enveloped in time. Time's awareness is beginning to peek through into linear time, through you, through your awareness of time's potential consciousness of itself in love. Time becomes aware. Show it its beauty as you see it in your day, through your eyes, through your musings. Befriend time and let time befriend you. So I was very much drawn to sharing this quite deep metaphysical passage about time, knowing that Carol's time on this earth has finished, and all of us will have our time on this earth finished. And as I was saying before, the mystics will tell us that we've had many times on this earth where we have begun and lived and the body has ended. And we can, if we think of ourselves as separated, think that's unfair, that we don't get to, get what we want and we have to end the body. But what Mother Mary is saying here is when you appreciate time and see that there is the potential to, the picture I'm getting right now is a window opening from the thought of linear time into the expanded awareness of the unity of time, that is available right here, right now in the body. So our teacher, Yeshua, demonstrated his unity with God and his ability to know all simultaneously. He would very often speak to individuals of their whole entire life and what their particular struggles with. One story comes to mind of the woman he speaks to about all of her husbands and what she's been through and what she needs to do when she goes home to take care of her life better. Well, how does he know all this about her? It's not that he's like your friendly neighborhood psychic, but because his consciousness is one with the unified field of all awareness, of course he can know everything about this woman because he knows he is that woman. So all of us have that potential, because we're all the child of God, to have full awareness of everything. So as I've learned to trust my inner awareness, if someone asks, I don't do this in an intrusive way. If someone asks, I can attune to exactly that kind of information, past life information, what's going on in the body, what are the themes, what's helpful for them to know on an overall spiritual level. So I do know that we can all access these continued stages of greater and greater awareness. And I certainly trust what Mother Mary is saying, what Yeshua is continuing to say to us, which is that since we are the child of God, we have all of the attributes of God, which are perfection, unity, love, full awareness, wisdom. All of these global attributes are us. And what Mother Mary is adding to this is that as we become collectively aware of this, and the child of God attains full awareness of our unity with Source, this creates a new experience in creation. So I want to reassure us that not even though things are turbulent, because things are turbulent, this is a sign that we are on this path to full awareness of our unity with Source. So use your reactions to all the turbulence in your personal lives, on the earth, in the collective life of humanity. Use your reactions to heal every thought of fear and separation that bubbles up, and keep going back into what Mother Mary is calling this inner spaciousness, our knowing of our ability to be in time outside of linear time, in simultaneous unified time. Once we are fully aware of God, then we are in a state of being that has not yet been known in creation. So though we can't know what that is until we're there, just knowing that that's what is in the process of being birthed is very powerful. This means that we honor every experience is exactly what we need, including illnesses and the end of the animation of the body. Let's just rest in the miraculousness of this incredible jewel called creation, in which every facet of experience is intimately intertwined with every other facet of experience, and accept that everything is perfect and each of us is divine and divinely important, and picture our own portal into the infinite spaciousness of the wholeness of time and the unified field of the child of God in its awareness of unity with God. And so it is, and amen.